Food is fuel for your body, your mind, and definitely your sport. But let's face it, nutrition is confusing, and the expectations on girls and women to be thin and have a six-pack are exhausting. If you've ever been frustrated with your body, confused about nutrition, obsessed with eating healthy, or guilty when you don't, underate, overate, or overtrained, and overwhelmed with all the pressure, then this podcast is for you. Nutrition can be easy, you can take control of it, but it might start with letting go of control by asking for help and making a change. I'm Lindsay Elizabeth Cortez, sports dietitian and owner of Rise Up Nutrition, where I empower female athletes to overcome nutrition concerns and perform at their highest level, to stop being confused by all the mixed or harmful messages, and finally have confidence in your body as a fierce, fit, and fueled female athlete. Hello fans, it's Lindsay Elizabeth Cortez, registered sports dietitian and your host of the podcast. I'm going to do something different for this episode and the next few episodes. I felt like we have some amazing guests, but I wanted to just get some nutrition, fast facts out to you, just straightforward information. I am not doing as much coaching as I used to. And so now I just feel like, wait, people need to know this information. So here it is for free. Wow. So I'm going to call this little series Fast Facts, Fast Fueling Facts. There we go. I love my Fs. If you haven't noticed, fierce, fit, fueled, female athlete, fast fueling facts. I've got lots of ideas. So I'm probably going to do a few episodes in a row. And then I think this is something we're just going to keep up with throughout the weeks and months and years that this podcast exists. And you'll just know whether it's a guest episode or one of these quick fast fueling facts episodes by its title. So some ideas that I have in mind, just as a heads up to get you excited. Today, we're going to do fast fueling facts all about pre and post workout. And so these episodes are going to be shorter, probably more like 15 to 25 minutes, just getting this information straightforward to you so that you can apply it in your life and be more fierce, fit, and fueled. Some other ideas that I have in mind would be, how to increase your carbohydrates, how to get enough protein, how to get enough quality fats in your diet. We can do a fast facts episode all about our electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium. We can talk about nutrients for bone health, calcium and vitamin D. We can talk about iron. We can dive into just like great breakfast ideas, great lunch ideas, great dinner ideas, how to put together a good snack, quick fast facts on REDS recovery or meal planning. So those are just some ideas that I have. And today, as I said, we are doing fast fueling facts all about pre and post workout nutrition. And I decided this would be the first one because this is where I start for all female athletes is, we got to look at your nutrient timing. We've got to look at your carbohydrate intake. We've got to look at what you're making for breakfast. We've got to look at your blood biomarkers. But I'm always like, what are we doing surrounding your workouts? Not only does that kind of set you up for success in fueling up for your workout and recovering from that and making the most out of your training, but it can also then kind of dictate what the rest of the day is going to look like. So we're going to start there. You're an athlete. You want to prioritize your training, your workouts, your games, your races. Like, let's talk about pre and post workout first, and then we'll figure out the rest of the day. So that is what today is about. That's what this series, Fast Fueling Facts, is going to be about. We'll dive into it in just 1 minute, but I also want to remind you about our new website, femaleathletenutritionpodcast.com. It is up and running. It is still a work in progress, but it's getting there. I recently added the shop, so I transferred over some things from my old website, including our REDS recovery guide and high iron fueling guide that you can now purchase for download on that website. Again, if you have a guest in mind, you want to be a guest on the show, you can apply directly on that website. You can subscribe to our email list, and this is probably a new and exciting thing. I really want all of you listeners, every single one of you, to sign up for my email list because I'm working on big projects. I'm re-engaging in work. I've taken 9 months completely off of work. It's been refreshing. It was needed for my family and for my health. But during those 9 months, oh my goodness, my brain, I have ideas, I have projects I'm super excited about, and I really want y'all on my email list. I'm not going to spam it with trying to sell you things. I'm going to try and write more. I'm working on writing my blog. I want to get information to you, and it's a great way for us to stay in contact. Maybe you miss an episode, maybe you don't have time to listen to podcasts anymore, but you can still check in on email, see what I have to say, see if there's something new out there that you want to pay attention to. And yeah, please sign up for the email list. So head to femaleathletenutritionpodcast.com for all things that I provide and offer within this podcast and beyond. And please sign up for our email list. I'll also include the direct link to sign up for the email list in this episode's show notes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, let's get into fast fueling facts about pre and post workout nutrition. So first and foremost, why do we want to eat before a workout or a training session? To give our body fuel. Yes, you have stored energy within your muscle glycogen, your liver glycogen, and your fat cells. Ultimately, what happens when you start working out, you start using your muscle glycogen. As that starts dropping, you pull from your blood sugar. As your blood sugar drops, you pull from your liver glycogen, your fuel source there. And then when we start running out of that, our body taps into its fat stores. That would be for really long duration endurance events. Yes, we have energy stored in our body, little asterisk there, as long as you've got a great diet on a daily basis. If you're under fueling, then you don't have great stored energy. So that's a topic for a different day. But even still, right away, your body starts breaking things down. Having that fuel before a workout ensures that you've topped off your blood sugar and your muscle glycogen, so that as your muscle glycogen starts dropping, your blood sugar is there and you don't start feeling weak, dizzy, fatigued. You get that blackout or bonking feeling. So that's the point of fueling up. It's giving your body energy. It's topping off your energy stores and making sure that you're not going to bonk during that workout and giving you the really best chance to perform at your highest level. So what do we want pre-workout and when do we want it? This can vary based on the time of day that you're working out and what type of workout or sport you are engaging in. But to cover our basis, here are the general recommendations. 30 to 60 minutes before you start your workout, you can consume 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate. That is your focus. Carbs fuel your workouts. You really don't need protein. You can get protein during the rest of your day. Maybe some amino acids might help a little bit with preventing muscle breakdown or kind of starting recovery early. You really don't need fat. It's okay if you have some. Same with the protein. You don't need the protein. You don't need the fat. It's okay if you have some. But I would caution you on too much fat. It's slow to digest, might upset your stomach. Same thing with fiber. We don't want too much fiber because that is slow to digest, upset your stomach, gas, bloating, all that stuff. So minimal fats, minimal fiber, some protein's okay, but you don't need to focus on it. We're focusing on carbohydrate, 30 to 60 grams, 30 to 60 minutes before. What does that look like? A banana is 30 grams of carbohydrate. Half a cup of dried fruit is 30 grams of carbohydrate. Look at some granola-based bars, some oat-based bars. They might range anywhere between 15 to 30 grams, and then your kind of more well-known athletic bars that are bigger in size, let's say a Cliff Bar, a Bonk Breaker, a Pro Bar, those might be more like the 40 to 50 grams of carbohydrate range. You could have half a cup of oats for 30 grams of carbohydrate, and then if you make it into a bowl of oatmeal with some honey, berries, some milk in there, you're probably getting up towards that 60 grams of carbohydrates. So that's good. Bread can really vary in size and density. One piece of bread might be 15 grams or it might be 20 grams. So let's go ahead and say, a piece or two of toast with jam, some jelly on there, or some sliced fruit, smushed strawberries or sliced banana would probably be in that range of 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate in your pre-workout. A bagel in and of itself is 60 grams. Or you could do half a bagel, again, with some honey and fruit on there. But let's just say that this is an afternoon training, you had lunch like 2 hours ago or something like that. Then I understand that how you had lunch 2 hours ago, now you're like, I don't really want another bowl of oatmeal. totally understandable. This is where timing really comes into play. So if we're being more specific, or your workout isn't first thing in the morning, really the recommendation is you have 1 gram of carbohydrate per kilogram of your body weight 1 hour before training. And actually, if we do the math, I'm going to pick a general number, 150 pounds. I'm not saying this is the size that female athletes should be or that they average are. I'm just picking that number for reference here. A female athlete that weighs 150 pounds is 68 kilograms. And 1 hour before, if you're supposed to have 1 gram of carbohydrate per kilogram of your body weight, that'd be 68 grams of carbs 1 hour before. So you can see how that recommendation of 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate 1 hour before your workout might even fall a little bit on the lighter side. But again, this varies per individual. Now, please do not get too hung up on the numbers here. If you've been following me for a while, I don't typically recommend counting grams and calories. And definitely, in this example, a 150-pound person, 68 kilograms, needing 1 gram per kilogram of carbohydrate would be 68 grams of carb. We don't need to be that specific. Like if you had 60 grams of carbs, great. If you had 55, that's pretty darn close. If you had 70, that's pretty darn close. That's getting a little too ridiculous in my opinion. In practical terms, please be in that ballpark. So again, even not getting hung up on numbers though, and again, I'm not saying anything about what being 150 pounds means. You don't even need to know your exact weight to do these calculations, by the way. If you're like, I think I'm 150, maybe I'm 160, maybe I'm 148, like that, we're going to be in the ballpark, okay? And so please don't overstress that. You can even do this with a few different numbers. If you're like, I was 150 pounds, 3 months ago, and now I'm 160, do it with both numbers and you'll see it's not that wildly different. And that will kind of ease your mind in knowing like you don't have to overstress every gram here. But back to the topic though of being in the ballpark, that general recommendation of 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate 1 hour before, picking that random body weight and doing the calculations, it was in the ballpark. It was 68 grams. So there you go. And an example of when you might be on the lower side of the 30 grams of carbohydrate wouldn't be for somebody who weighs way less, because I don't even know if it shouldn't be humanly possible to weigh that little, but I'm not going to do the math there. But actually that comes into play when it's like, well, I just had lunch. So let's just say you had, lunch at 12, and I'm going to get to that in just a moment. And your workout is at 2:30, or your training session's at 2:30, 2.5 hours later, you can do the 60 grams of carbs, or maybe just 30 is enough because you had a full, complete lunch with a lot of carbohydrate at that time. So that's where you might do, only 30 grams of carbohydrate because you just ate a meal. And so this is just your boost, right? But let's say it's a morning session and you don't want to have like a full breakfast, but you need to get enough in. Do this calculation, 1 gram per kilogram of your body weight 1 hour before, and that should be helpful. And again, to actually expand upon this, True Sports Nutrition Guidelines does have gram per kilogram recommendation for each hour pre-training. So 1 hour before is 1 gram per kilogram of carbohydrate. 2 hours before is 2 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight. 3 hours before is 3 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight. 4 hours before is 4 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight. If we do out the math for this, I'm going to use the same example. 2 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight in that example of a 150-pound person turns out to be 136 grams of carbohydrate. Now, this actually sounds like a great meal to have. I'm going to keep going with the example of lunch at 12, practice at 2 or 2:30, workout at 2 or 2:30, competition at 2 or 2:30. 2 hours before, you could have 136 grams of carbohydrate. That actually would be amazing. But if you know anything about kind of macros and calories, that's pretty sizable. It's a good sized meal, and that's pure carbohydrate. It's over 500 calories worth of just carbohydrate. Now, a meal should be over 500 calories, so throw some proteins and fats in there, and you're having a full complete meal 2 hours before a workout. But now we start doing the math for 3 grams per kilogram, 3 hours before, 4 grams per kilogram, 4 hours before. And you might be thinking in your head, I don't even eat that many carbohydrates throughout an entire day. That is very possible. And I'm not saying that's good. You might need to work on your total carbohydrate throughout the entire day. But I'm also sharing with you, take this information with a grain of salt, go with where you're at. If right now you're eating 0 carbohydrate pre-workout, start with eating something. If you're only eating 3 grams per kilogram of carbohydrate in your entire day, then suddenly having it all in one meal is probably not ideal. So work your way up. One other note here is, what type of exercise are we talking about? I definitely recommend this for my athletes that are like competing. If this is game day, this is race day, I would plan out, hey, 3 hours before, we're going to try and hit 3 grams per kilogram of carbohydrate in your pre-competition meal, because we don't want to focus on proteins. We don't want to focus on fats. We want to make sure it's carbohydrate. And we're trying to hit for optimized performance here and specific nutrient timing. But if this is daily training, if this is just daily training, daily workout, daily practice, you don't necessarily need to hit these specific targets unless you are an ultra endurance athlete, be it swimming endurance, running endurance, rowing endurance, mountain, like biking, cycling, mountain biking endurance, anything like that, where it's like, we're going to go hit the trails, or we're going to go hit the water for the next 3 hours, even though it's not a competition, then you do want to, because you're thinking, I hope I'm not getting too confusing here, but you're thinking, yeah, I had lunch at 12. I'm going to hit the trails at 2 and I'm going to be out for a 3-hour ride. You probably do want to hit your 2 to 3 grams per kilogram carbohydrate 2 to 3 hours before, because that's many, many hours. You're missing an entire meal in that time before you actually get to truly eat again. And you should be having during training fuel as well. But, we just got to start thinking about what type of exercise is this for? How long am I working out? So again, if this is your daily, like I'm just hitting the gym for 45 minutes, it is a hard training session, I would aim for that 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate the hour before, or, 2 hours before, try and hit 1 to 2 grams per kilogram carbohydrate, and then get your pre-workout boost with about 30 grams right beforehand. And then you're good to go. But on competition, on race day, or for ultra endurance, you might need to really bump up those carbohydrates and time it out for optimized digestion and everything. And you might be doing a full 3 grams per kilogram 3 hours before. So I know that might be mind blowing to some of you. Those are our sports nutrition guidelines. One final comment I will make on the pre-workout carbohydrate is, some people have found that they eat their pre-workout carbohydrate and then they actually feel a dip in energy when they start working out. And some people who are into wearing continuous glucose monitors might actually see their blood sugar drop. This is usually a temporary short-term response due to insulin rising that your body self-regulates if you give it enough time. So this is just an interesting side note. Some people wearing continuous glucose monitors are like, I ate pre-workout carbohydrate and then my blood sugar dropped right when I was trying to start my workout. Give it 5 more minutes, your blood sugar is probably going to self-regulate and come right back up. But it sometimes is an effect. And there's a small percentage of the population that does have what we call reactive hypoglycemia due to high insulin. And in that case, you might just want to work on consuming a lower glycemic index type of carbohydrate, or time it out, space it out a little further. Instead of 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate 30 to 60 minutes before, you might really need that 60 minutes before, so that your body has enough time to regulate and recover from that slight hypoglycemia. So those are just some general guidelines to help you out in the pre-workout period. Let's move on now to post-workout. Why is it important to recover post-workout? Lots of sports dietitians talk about the 4 R's of recovery. That's replenish, rehydrate, rebuild, reduce. Replenish your muscle glycogen. Basically, you burn through your carbohydrates, you lost energy stores, so we now want to replenish that so that you have energy for the rest of the day, and that your muscle glycogen and liver glycogen is refueled for your next workout, which might be the next day, or if you're doing 2 days, the very same day. You want to rehydrate to prevent dehydration. Most exercise and training, you sweat and get a little dehydrated. That's the nature of your body cooling itself. So you need to make sure you don't stay dehydrated. You need to rehydrate. Also, the nature of exercise is catabolic in nature. It does break you down. So you want to rebuild your muscle and provide those proteins. Again, protein isn't necessarily fueling your workout, but it's helping you rebuild after the damage was done. And if you also want to actually grow muscle or get bigger, get stronger, adapt to what you were doing, that's again, the rebuilding of the muscle is so important in the recovery phase. And then reduce soreness. So there's certain things, some antioxidants and anti-inflammatory ingredients that can help reduce soreness, but even more so just the fact of eating when you replenish muscle glycogen and rebuild your muscle, then you're going to be less sore. So the whole act of just getting your carbs and protein in post-workout and rehydrating does reduce soreness in and of itself. So the post-workout, let's follow up first on carbohydrates, since that's what we focused on pre-workout. There actually is a gram per kilogram recommendation here as well. It is 1.2 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight in the post-workout period, which is as soon as possible, hopefully within an hour, and the quicker the better. So again, we're just using our example. 150-pound person would be 68.18 kilograms. And at 1.2 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight in the post-workout period, that would be about 81 grams of carbohydrate. 81 grams of carbohydrate to recover. Let's shift now to protein. Many people have heard of different carb to protein ratios in the recovery period, like having a 3-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein, or in endurance, 4-to-1. Sometimes in pure strength, people might do 2-to-1 ratio. So again, if we're using this specific example of 81 grams of carbohydrate, again, I'm never that specific. So 80 grams of carbohydrate for approximately 150-pound person. 2-to-1, which would be pure strength. That would then give you 40 grams of protein, 80 grams of carbs. Let me say that backwards so it makes sense. 2-to-1 would be 80 grams of carbohydrate to 40 grams of protein. A 3-to-1 would be 80 grams of carbohydrate to 27 grams of protein. And a 4-to-1 ratio would be 80 grams of carbohydrate to 20 grams of protein. See how we keep that carbohydrate stable? Why do we do that? Because carbs are so important for female athletes. I just cannot stress that enough. So we keep the carbs stable and then we figure out the ratio afterwards. But if I'm being completely honest, I care way less about the ratio than I do total amount. So in all reality, I still want your protein goal to be somewhere between 20 to 30 grams of protein. On a few instances, I might say that 15 grams is good enough, but let's really try and hit 20 grams post-workout, all the way up to 30 grams. Somewhat dependent on body size and muscle size you're doing and the type of training. If you're doing the type of training that was really damaging to your muscle, or you're working on hypertrophy, building muscle, or you are somebody that is bigger in nature, taller, more muscle, more weight on you, then you're going to go towards that upper end of 30 grams, maybe even more. I'm not against people having more protein than that. It just sometimes, if you go and have 100 grams of protein in one sitting, it's not all going to rebuilding your muscle. We've got lots of research to say it does kind of max out when it goes towards muscle recovery. It's still an energy source, still tastes good, it's still fuel. So I'm not going to stop you from eating more protein if you really want to. But I would hate for you to eat 100 grams of protein and not get enough carbohydrate, because then that protein just gets converted to carbs anyways. So get your carb goal. Make sure that your protein is at least between 20 to 30 grams. If it happens to be more, that's okay. But make sure it's at least 20 to 30 grams. So, what does that look like post-workout? Let's see, 80 grams of carb, 20 grams of protein, which happens to be a 4-to-1 ratio. That would be like 2 cups of chocolate milk with a banana and a quarter cup of trail mix. We've got some fat in there as well, and that's okay. You can have fat in your post-workout period. Do you need it? No. But does it hurt you? No. So you can have it. Maybe a 3-to-1 ratio could look something like 90 grams of carbs, 30 grams of protein. That could be a whole cup of Greek yogurt with half a cup of granola, a quarter cup of berries, and a glass of orange juice. Maybe this is more of a pure strength workout, or it's the type of thing that you're going to have your recovery and then you're going to have a meal like an hour later. So a 2-to-1 ratio, but you're still going to try and hit your 20 to 30 grams of protein and be in the ballpark of your carbohydrate. So maybe somewhere like 60 grams of carbs, 20 to 30 grams of protein in a 2-to-1 ratio or a 3-to-1 ratio could be a recovery smoothie where you do 8 to 12 ounces of cow's milk or soy milk for the protein. Maybe you add a little extra protein with a protein powder, Greek yogurt. You get those carbs in with banana, honey, dates, and get some extra nutrients in there with some spinach or ground flaxseed. You can easily hit those carb and protein goals with a blended smoothie. Lots of these post-workout options that I just mentioned might feel like a meal. You're like a whole Greek yogurt berry parfait bowl, chocolate milk, banana, and trail mix, a loaded smoothie. That feels like a meal. Yep. I very often say that post-workout is a meal. Look, normal people, and when I say normal, I just mean people not focused on sports, not training for an intentional purpose, non-athletes, they eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner and 1 or 2 snacks a day. What about you? You need more fuel. You're training hard. So you might have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and fourth meal might be your recovery meal. Recovery, I think, is considered a meal to hit these nutrition targets, and it's one of your most important meals of the day. Pre-workout may or may not be a meal. Like you said, maybe your pre-workout hitting your 2 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight 2 hours before. Maybe that is breakfast, but you still kind of fuel up with a little extra carb, right? In like 30 minutes before or 15 minutes before. So that's why having breakfast, lunch, dinner, recovery meal, and then you might have your pre-workout snack, and you might just have afternoon snack, and you might have night snack. This is totally normal setup for your day. And that's why hitting these pre and post-workout targets is so important, because it can kind of help you figure out what the rest of your day might look like fueling wise. I hope this was helpful. If you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you know that I'm not big on counting macros or counting calories. However, I will say that getting your nutrition right in the pre and post-workout period is so crucial to your energy levels, to your performance, to your recovery. And this is a time period where I do bring attention to grams of carbs, grams of protein. We don't have to overstress calories at this time. If you're getting your carbs and protein in, as I just laid out, then that's good. You don't need to be super specific. I know in my example, I said 81 grams or 68 grams. Ballpark estimates are fine. And I would also strongly encourage you, once you figure out, oh, this is within my range, this is my ballpark, like this meal generally works, then you just know it. You don't have to keep tracking it every single time. You know that if you do a cup of Greek yogurt, add some granola berries and juice on the side, then you're good to go. You don't need to weigh and measure it all out. You can eyeball it once you figure out this is, the Greek yogurt's my protein and the granola and berries are my carbs. And it's not just a sprinkling of granola, it's a decent amount to really reach that carbohydrate goal, then you should be good to go. Well, fans, I don't know if I talked really fast because I, said these are fast fueling facts. Maybe I won't talk so fast in the next ones, but I hope you liked this style, and we're going to have more of these fast fueling fact episodes to you in the next coming weeks. Please head to femaleathletenutritionpodcast.com. Sign up for my email list. I've got a great email coming out this week with a new blog post I wrote about why I cut sugar out of my diet. Whoa. If you've been listening to my podcast, if you've been following my Instagram, if you know me on any level, you're going to be like, no, she didn't say that right. Lindsay would never cut out sugar. Lindsay loves sugar. Lindsay told me to eat sugar. Lindsay loves carbs. Sugar fuels performance. You're right. However, I actually did cut sugar out of my diet for the past year. I've got a good reason for it. I've got a lot that I learned from it. And I want you to read about it so that you can learn from my experience too. Head to femaleathletenutritionpodcast.com/blog to read that, or sign up for my email list right there on the website here in the show notes, because I'm going to be sending out great content like that. I'm sending out that content and more content like that in these next coming weeks and months. I'm so excited to deliver it all to you. Thank you for listening. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, if you are a true fan of female athlete nutrition, then I would love if you could support our podcast by spreading the word. Share a review on your listening channel, give us 5 stars. It really helps get the word out and get the show more views to positively impact others. Also, you can support the podcast by joining our Patreon. Head to patreon.com/femaleathletenutrition to consider a donation, or even better, join our membership where you get extra monthly content and perks. We don't want you to simply listen alone. We want you to be a part of a community and a movement of fierce, fit, and fueled female athletes. So patreon.com/femaleathletenutrition is where you can do exactly that, learn more, and join. A huge thanks to our affiliates and partners as well. Once again, Prevenix, Inside Tracker, Orgain, Practice Better, Jen and Carrie. Please go check them out, and their links in the show notes where you can get deals and discounts. Last, be sure that you do more than just listen. If you need help with fueling, it's time to take action. Head to my website to learn more. You can either book a free call with me to learn more about our coaching programs and how we can work directly with you, whether it's the fast track or otherwise. Or you can take our online self-study course, Female Athlete Nutrition. You can literally sign up and gain access right now. You can explore our downloadable products, including the Red S Recovery Guide, High Iron Fueling Guide. Or if you are a coach of a team, check out our brand new Coaches Toolkit for teams. You can also just learn more. We have a blog, a Red S quiz to see if Red S is affecting you. If you need help, I want you to get help fast. Too many girls and athletes struggle with nutrition, but you don't have to any longer. You can rise up with the power of nutrition, take action today in any of these avenues, and become fierce, fit, and fueled. Links in the show notes, and we'll see you next time.